Hello friends, Don Stock here from 21st Century Disciple. Welcome to the trailer for the 21st Century Disciple YouTube channel. In this introductory video, I'll be telling you what 21st Century Disciple is about and how you can engage with the resources and the community that really is daring to ask what it would mean to be a disciple of Jesus right here, right now in 21st century America or the Western world. At the end of this video, be sure to hit the link to join the 21st Century Disciple community, and you'll get free exclusive access to content, including a copy of the books and authors list that I've compiled from writers and teachers who have deeply influenced my journey as a disciple of Jesus. So I have a sincere question. As someone who identifies as a Christian, have you ever struggled with thoughts that keep running around in your head similar to these? I've asked Jesus into my heart and to forgive me, and I go to church like I was taught, but it seems like there should be more to this whole thing, and I feel like there's something missing. Or after all these years of attending church services and hearing sermons, I'm still struggling to grow and develop an intimate relationship with God. I feel like I'm spinning in circles and going nowhere, and it's really hard on my faith. I've heard a lot about salvation and forgiveness of sin, but is going to heaven when you die the only point of the gospel? And is that the sole reason Jesus came to earth to begin with? I struggle with why the priorities and values of many churches and Christians seem so different from Jesus' words and actions that I read about in the Bible. Why does disagreement and anger and contempt and conflict seem so prevalent in church context and among so many Christians in general? Why are Christians so mean? I have very different political views and beliefs than most Christians that I know. Does that mean that if I am a Christian seeking to grow in my relationship with God, or if I were to become a Christian, if I'm not one now, do I have to subscribe to the beliefs and values of a particular political party? Jesus lived and taught over 2,000 years ago and in a world very different from mine. How can I understand and learn to live out the realities and priorities and values that Jesus spoke of here in the 21st century? Or my desire is to have an intimate, vibrant relationship with God and to see Him work in and through my life. I just don't know how to get there. If you found yourself asking these questions or others like them, the first thing I want you to tell you is you simply are not alone. And in fact, in these crazy times, there's a rapidly growing number of like-minded souls who are seeking truth and reality and are trying very hard to excavate the way of Jesus and the heart of Jesus from beneath this pile of religious noise that surrounds us. It's an unfortunate reality, but in the modern era, the term Christian has accumulated a truckload of negative connotations, as you well know. And sadly, a great many of them have been appropriately earned. In fact, so much so that in 2007, a book was released called Unchristian, which chronicled the impressions that people outside the Christian faith have of Christianity and of Christians, and particularly in America. And the results were deeply unflattering and honestly pretty heartbreaking for anyone who takes seriously the way of Jesus and the call on our lives to reflect Him to the world. Yet, if I'm honest, many of the accusations or the contentions were not at all surprising. So the question really stands: what's happened? How did we get to this place where the public perception of the term Christian has come to be associated with so many things that are literally the direct opposite of the words and teachings of Jesus? And where does that leave us? Those of us who want to be that reflection, who more than anything want to show the world something different. Well, as it turns out, there are very real, traceable changes in how the gospel, the person of Christ, the Bible, God's plan for humanity, all those things have come to be understood and presented over the past 100 years or so. Again, especially here in the Western world. And we're going to be talking about some of those things. But the reality is, this isn't a new phenomenon. Now, the circumstances around it are somewhat unique, but the process of things going off the rails and the message of Jesus being hijacked and corrupted and turned into something that's very different is, as they say, a tale as old as time. The truth is, it's been a continual struggle since Jesus laid out the Great Commission and left the gospel in the hands of his followers. We are today, in one sense, nothing new. There have been many times over the course of history that Christianity went far, far wide of Jesus' teachings and priorities and focus, and has gotten very, very lost. It's pretty easy to recall things like the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition as very, very severe examples of this. But there's been lots and lots and lots and lots of other examples. But each time, and this is where my hope is, and this is where the fire of my spirit comes from, that each time throughout history, when this has happened, God has raised up sensitive and humble hearts who yearn for truth and reality, and who he reveals things to them, and they rediscover the wonder of the kingdom of God. And they are those who throw off the error that obscures Jesus and creates barriers for people coming into relationship with him. And I believe that God is doing that exact thing right now in these days. I personally believe that a revival is afoot, but I believe that it's going to look far, far different than the average comfortable church and member of religious community have prayed for or thought it would look like. And the truth is, there is no problem within the church and among Christians that would not be immediately put right by true discipleship to Jesus. And that's why after over 2 decades really, of speaking, teaching, and writing about this subject in so many different contexts, in youth ministry and adult ministry, I decided to create 21st Century Disciple, which is an online community where we could come together and strive to answer that key question: what would it look like to follow Jesus and be a disciple, literally an apprentice of Jesus, in real time, right now, in the 21st century? If what we are seeing is not it, what is it, and what would it take to get there? And by extension, how can we then demonstrate that in our daily lives and offer that life to those around us in a way that is authentic, attractive, and empowered by the Spirit of God? Because at the end of the day, it's no real value to throw stones and lament the state of things. All there is for it is to become something radically different, or to become the thing that we're supposed to have been the whole time. Because the simple fact is, when you take the Gospels at their word, when you take Jesus at his word, the idea of there being two different categories of believer, or however you want to state it, that someone could be a Christian and not be a disciple, is completely foreign to the gospel itself and to the way of Jesus. So, as the saying goes, I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness. Because as it turns out, there are very real, very accessible answers to the kinds of the questions that many of us have. And they've always existed. We've just lost them, many of them, to history and to our culture, and they just need to be recovered. And other answers just need new wineskins appropriate to the times in which we live in. And it's my goal that through 21st Century Disciple, that we can make those answers available through teaching, through resources, music, events, and especially, most especially, through this community. So in the midst of this discussion, we'll look at some of the dynamics and forces that helped create the conditions that we see around us. But most importantly, we're going to be zeroing in on how we can become people who are truly something different. And we're going to do that by recapturing the heart, the vision, and the passion for not just being a believer or someone who has all the data and believes the right things, and not just as a quote-unquote Christian who identifies with the church and holds all the right religious or political opinions or positions, but an actual apprentice. We're going to study and see what that really means. A literal disciple of Jesus Christ right here, right now, in the midst of the blood and guts of real life. Because that's where it matters, is in the everyday. And if that resonates with you, then we invite you to join us on this journey. I'm really, really excited about this. Many, many, many things coming down the road that's going to give us more opportunity to pursue true discipleship together. So if you would, please like and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to be notified of the new content as it's published. I'm so looking forward to meeting and interacting with all of you and seeing where God takes us all on this journey. So one final question. Have you had questions like those we mentioned earlier or others like them? If so, please tell us about them in the comments, because periodically, this video is going to stay up because it's an introduction to the channel. We'll be using these comments to determine teaching topics and series for our channel and for our special FAQ episodes that we'll be having periodically. So please make sure that you give us your thoughts in the comments and engage in this conversation. And don't forget to follow the on-screen link above right now or the one in the description down below, or at the end of this video, to join the 21st Century Disciple community, get your free exclusive content, including a copy of the influential books and authors list. I promise you it's an introduction to some amazing, amazing resources. And if you're interested in the guiding principles of the 21st Century Disciple community, or about my background and experience as its primary teacher, depending upon when you're viewing this, either keep your eye out for alerts about those new videos or check out the links in the description below right now. And if they're there, they've already been done. If they're not, they're coming. And finally, never forget, God's always speaking. We're just not always listening. And at 21st Century Disciple, our passion is to learn how to listen and to become what I call Jesus with skin on for the hurting world around us.